If you have the desire and, most importantly, the free time to really dive into games, the open-world lineup of 2026 should make you happy. Many of the biggest releases we were promised in 2025 have been pushed into 2026, and in this video we are going through the top 20 open-world games that are worth keeping on your radar. What's up guys, it's Broz, and here we go. We open with the Blood of Dawnwalker. The hook is clean and sharp. By day you walk the world as a human mercenary. By night you become a full vampire. Across a fixed cycle of 30 days and nights, the campaign plays out, and every choice inside that loop pushes the world toward either recovery or complete collapse. Set in late medieval Europe with a strong Carpathian mood, the game feels more like a grounded, dark historical drama than bright high fantasy. Recent gameplay footage shows how much the combat and presentation have tightened up compared to the first reveal. Cloth and armor react more naturally, hits land with more weight, and animations look less stiff. The camera now gives a better read on enemy groups and spacing, even if a slightly higher angle would make positioning clearer. The game is marketed as a narrative sandbox. There is no strict line between main and side quests. Every quest chain is just another thread in a web of stories tied to factions, villages, and cursed bloodlines, and the game tracks how often the player leans on the human side or the vampire side while resolving them. Grand Theft Auto 6 now has a firm spot on the calendar, November 19, 2026, with launch confirmed only for PS5 and Xbox Series. Rockstar openly said it needs extra time, which matches how ambitious the project looks. The story unfolds in the state of Leonida, a twisted mirror of Florida with Vice City as the dense urban core and a ring of swamps, highways, dusty small towns, and beach resorts around it. Official footage already shows thick crowds, social media feeds inside the game, and a world that feels permanently online, a little too close to real Florida news streams. The map is structured more like a whole state than a single metropolis. Moving from tight city blocks to alligator-filled wetlands and run-down roadside motels brings clear shifts in mood. Rockstar keeps the full story under wraps, but the Bonnie and Clyde-inspired duo at the center and the focus on smartphone culture make it clear how much chaos here will come from viral stunts, filmed crimes, and public overreaction. Technically, the game already broke records. The first trailer smashed YouTube view counts, and analysts keep calling GTA 6 the most expensive entertainment project ever produced, which lines up with the amount of visible detail in every frame. Hopefully there won't be any more delays, and we'll actually get to play it in 2026. Crimson Desert has quietly moved away from its original MMO from the makers of Black Desert label and is now positioned as a big single-player open-world action RPG. The continent of Pywell is not just decoration, but a messy lived-in space full of feudal politics, mercenary contracts, and random trouble in the wilderness. Pearl Abyss leans into a heavy, physical style of gameplay. The protagonist climbs cliffs, grabs onto flying creatures, falls off them, brawls in taverns, takes part in large battles, and still finds time for peaceful activities like hunting, fishing, and trading. The open world is built around a mix of scripted and dynamic events. Large-scale battles with dozens of fighters, sieges, caravans, sudden bosses on the road, and many side stories that often come not from icons on the map, but from what is happening in the environment. Technically, this is one of Pearl Abyss's most ambitious projects to date. Complex weather systems, day-night cycles, and highly detailed armor and scenery already push it into the top end of 2026 releases visually. With GTA 6 now moved to late 2026, Crimson Desert automatically became one of the main single-player open-world launches for the spring window, especially for players who miss big story-driven adventures and do not want another live service grind. Agefield High Rock the School goes for a very specific fantasy. A small American town in the early 2000s, pop punk, cheap hoodies, and the graduation clock ticking for everyone. The player takes the role of Sam, the new kid pulled into a chaotic rock the school plan by classmates Kale and Axel. And the whole thing is framed like an interactive teen comedy. The campus, a couple of nearby neighborhoods, the town center, and the surrounding countryside form a compact open world with a real-time schedule and a school system. Skipping class has consequences, but it also exposes Sam to side jobs, weird situations, and extra storylines. This game clearly does not chase cutting-edge graphics. It is built around nostalgia for school years, with the mood and humor of American Pie and all kinds of awkward, goofy, borderline situations. Games in this specific niche are rare, And for people who waited for a Bully 2 that never happened, this looks like a decent alternative. The Steam page calls it a mix of comedy, satire, and hard-edged humor, with an adult rating for alcohol, suicidal themes, and sexual innuendo, so the tone is far from a clean school drama. Instead of a giant map, the developers focus on density, a few dozen main missions, side activities, lessons that play out as mini-games, and shops where Sam can blow money on clothes, tattoos, bikes, and other stuff. By the way, while I was looking up info on this game, I was cracking up at comments under the trailer, like ChatGPT generate me a sequel to Bully, or the blonde with space buns looks like a young female Willem Dafoe. That actually sounds pretty funny. The new Fable sits in a strange position. Officially, it still carries a 2026 window, with Microsoft having already confirmed a delay from an earlier target, but there have been no big showings since summer 2025. At the same time, recent Xbox roadmaps still list Fable as one of the key releases for this generation, even while Playground Games is also responsible for Forza Horizon 6. That naturally raises questions in the community about whether the studio has enough capacity to ship two AAA projects in the same year. On the technical side, Fable is built on the same Forza tech base as Horizon, which explains the near CG quality lighting, wet cobblestone streets, and dense forests seen in trailers. The tone is recognizably British, sarcastic narration, talking vegetables, oddball villagers, and a world that treats the player character more like a walking joke than a chosen savior. We're promised a story-driven action RPG with open areas, reactive NPCs, and a focus on shaping a personal legend rather than chasing a rigid morality bar that flips the protagonist's appearance. I think they're getting it wrong here, because if you're positioning yourselves as a true RPG, then a character creator or something along those lines is a must-have, since you can't even look at the main heroine without a thick bag over her head. The developers keep repeating that this is not a live service project, but a self-contained adventure in the spirit of the old games, with modern combat and world physics layered on top. And for all you bird rights activists out there, here's your favorite shot from the trailer. Subnautica 2 has had a rough production cycle. The sequel was originally planned to hit early access earlier, but publisher Krafton reshuffled leadership at Unknown Worlds and pushed the project to a 2026 early access launch. On the design side, the core idea is still familiar: a dangerous alien ocean and survival in a fully underwater open world. The new installment moves to Unreal Engine 5 and adds co-op for up to 4 players with cross-play between PC and Xbox. Building multi-level bases, exploring new biomes, dealing with new fauna, and experimenting with upgraded vehicles are still at the center. The early access release in 2026 is planned as the start of a long update cycle, with new regions, creatures, and a storyline around experiments with human and alien DNA. According to the studio, there are no subscription plans, and the game is sold as a classic premium title that simply uses early access to fine-tune its systems. Given the drama around leadership changes, both press and fans are watching closely to see whether Subnautica 2 can keep that feeling of discovery that made the first game stand out. Mortal Shell 2 was officially announced as a sequel with a more open structure. Cold Symmetry and the publisher explained that the game moves away from the semi-corridor layout of the first part toward a compact but genuinely open world where players can leave the starting area and branch out into different directions, finding content in varied order instead of following one strict route. The shell mechanic remains the core. There are again different bodies with unique stats and animations that can be discovered in the world and swapped between. The sequel builds on this with more side activities, small dungeons and hidden bosses, plus a broader progression system so builds do not feel locked into a single obvious path. One of the headline changes is the removal of the classic stamina bar. Combat now encourages aggressive pressure, breaking enemy posture and landing critical hits instead of counting how many swings can be made before the character is exhausted. There are also new ranged tools like pistols, shotguns, and a repeating crossbow. Visually, the game pushes further into grim, decayed imagery with wax, rot, strange organic structures, and collapsing architecture. The release is planned for PS5, Xbox Series, and PC with no exact date at the moment. Forza Horizon 6 finally takes the festival to Japan. Playground Games confirmed that the new map covers Tokyo with its layered highways and neon districts, mountain passes made for drifting, and rural regions with rice fields and tight village roads. The team calls this version of Tokyo the most ambitious city it has ever built for Horizon, with multi-level road networks, heavy traffic, and a lot of verticality. The map is planned to be the largest in the series and is built on contrast. There are dense downtown streets, long coastal routes, and foggy night serpentines in the mountains. Dynamic time of day and weather, which have been standard for Forza for years, return here as a key part of the experience. Rain, fog, and different lighting conditions radically change the feel of familiar tracks. Japan also gives the game an excuse to lean hard into tuning culture, with lineups of classic JDM cars parked next to American muscle and European exotics. After Horizon 5 unexpectedly found success on PlayStation, Horizon 6 is launching first on Xbox and PC with a PS5 version confirmed for later, which has greatly upset many owners of Sony's console. Chronicles Medieval is heading into early access on PC in 2026, and is pitched as a large, dynamic sandbox about 14th century Europe. It does not use the classic third-person open-world formula. Instead, there is a two-layer structure. On the strategic map, armies and parties move in real time, and when the player enters a town, camp, or battlefield, the camera switches into a full third-person action view with detailed scenes. The whole fantasy revolves around climbing from nobody to power. A run can start with the player as a mercenary, trader, or minor noble, and over time evolve into commanding an army, renting lands, fortifying strongholds, and taking part in battles with hundreds of soldiers. The team openly cites Mount and Blade as an influence, but wants a more cinematic presentation. A combat system built on Unreal Engine 5 and a grounded, non-fantasy setting. For early access, the plan is to include the core campaign, custom battles, and co-op, and then as the game moves toward version 1.0, expand into full co-op story progression for the complete release. LEGO Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight is planned for 2026 as a big open-world take on Batman that tries to cover most of the character's history in one package. The team is building on the tech from LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, but shifting it into a fully explorable Gotham with multiple districts, special zones like Arkham and a Batcave hub. The key idea is to walk through decades of comics, cartoons, and films. Early material shows early-era Batman in a simple suit, darker 80s-inspired arcs and modern interpretations, plus cameos from side characters pulled from all over DC's catalog. Split-screen and online co-op remain central. Two players can freely drive around the city, take down criminal hideouts, play story missions, and hunt collectibles. Gotham is described as vertical and layered, with rooftops, sewers, docks, and familiar locations like Ace Chemicals. Previews make it clear that the game is not aimed only at kids. A lot of the humor and references are clearly meant for grown-up fans who know the older comics and films. Gothic 1 Remake is slated for first quarter 2026 and tries to balance between a faithful restoration and a modern action RPG. The world is still the same mining valley, but terrain, density of objects, and camp layouts have been reworked. THQ Nordic and Alchemia Interactive say the overall scale is preserved, while the world is filled with more side events, small quests, and secrets than the 2001 version ever had. The most obvious change is combat and controls. The clunky original system is replaced with a modern third-person setup featuring dodges, blocks, and readable attack timings, plus a proper quest log and interface that does not fight the player. Even so, the structure of the open world remains close to the classic. 3 main camps, a smooth difficulty ramp as the hero pushes deeper into the valley, and the feeling of being a nobody in a very dangerous prison under open sky. The devs add new quests, expand some side characters, and update visuals to current standards, but keep stressing that the remake does not rewrite the lore and does not turn Gothic into a completely different game. Chrono Odyssey spent a long time on lists of big Korean MMORPGs without a firm date, but Kakao Games' recent reports now place its launch window in fourth quarter 2026, with a closed beta planned in the first half of the year. That is why it still appears in 2026 open-world roundups instead of vanishing into development limbo. The game is pitched as a large-scale RPG with an open world called Cetera, where players roam big zones, join world events, raids, and PvP. The signature mechanic is time manipulation. In combat, characters can roll back their position, slow enemies, play with different time branches, and combine that with multiple weapon types and flexible rolls. The open world is framed as large hub-based regions with dungeons and world bosses, plus a full character creator and raid-scale encounters typical of Korean MMOs. A 2025 closed test drew heavy criticism for performance and a stiff early version of combat. Following that feedback, Kakao noted to investors that several core systems are being reworked and the launch window shifted to late 2026. The sinking city 2 steps away from the detective open-world feel of the first game, and is now positioned as a survival horror experience in a large coastal city. Frogwares moves the action to a new fictional settlement plagued by floods and gloom, with a strong focus on exploring districts in any order. The city is divided into areas with different threat levels, and the player constantly has to balance risk, resources, and the protagonist's mental state. The open-world structure is more systemic this time. Safe houses act as anchors, while streets, flooded alleys, and sewers between them are full of danger. Ammunition, supplies, and sanity all matter, and Lovecraft-inspired creatures patrol the city instead of waiting in set-piece arenas. Investigation elements remain, but cases now tend to trigger horror episodes, rather than functioning as pure detective puzzles. Weather and tides can change routes and how districts are accessed. The game was originally announced for 2025, but it is now officially slated for the first half of 2026. From Digital Extremes, the Warframe studio, Soulframe is playable right now in its public Preludes build, with a paid Founders program that opened in late November 2025. Founders Packs add early access perks and themed gear sets, launched alongside the Preludes 12 update with new systems and tutorial polish. You roll an envoy through a basic character creator, then step into Midrath, a set of large island zones that fold into handmade dungeons. Combat is slower and heavier than Warframe. Parries, guard breaks, committed swings. It reads Souls-like, but without harsh death penalties or corpse runs, so failure does not erase currency. Animals are part of the core loop. Certain creatures can be rescued and kept as short-term companions to help with movement, scouting pings, or quick crowd control. The clearest early example shown by the community is a wolf pup that can travel with you and assist in fights. Content at this stage is limited to one main island, several dungeons, and a small set of activities. The reason it appears in a 2026 open world roundup is simple. The current state looks solid enough that a 2026 release is plausible, but the developers have not officially committed to that year. Sea of Remnants from NetEase and Joker Studio is set for 2026 and stands out for the way it mixes an island-based open world with a lane-based RPG structure similar to Honkai Star Rail. The world is an archipelago that the player crosses by ship, discovering new islands, ports, and spheres of influence. On-land battles are turn-based with dice-driven buffs and debuffs for your crew. At sea, combat is real-time and hinges on positioning and wind. The visual style looks like a puppet-style pirate anime. Doll-like characters, colorful ships, fantastical sea creatures, and fairly dark dungeons where landing parties go ashore. In the open world, you move through a web of trade paths and travel lanes, running into random events from monster attacks to clashes with rival captains. At a Sony show, the game was announced as free-to-play, launching on PS5, PC, and mobile with shared servers across regions. Early impressions note that behind the cute presentation there is a fairly demanding economic layer. The ship needs constant repair and maintenance, the crew needs supplies, and rushing into high-level waters can quickly end badly. ArcheAge Chronicles comes from XL Games with Kakao Games Publishing. After the 2024 rebrand from ArcheAge 2, the team started framing it as an online action RPG with a strong narrative thread, not a classic tab-target MMORPG. Public messaging in 2025 leaned into PvE and solo or small group play while keeping the series' sandbox pieces that veterans care about like sailing, housing, and crafting. Leadership also shifted when longtime ArcheAge boss Jake Song exited, which the press noted alongside the reintroduction. On the game side, the studio keeps sea lanes, trade runs, and open world building, but combat runs in real time, and the world aims to play out in the open, rather than inside heavy instances. Developer letters and interviews highlighted upgraded housing and a refreshed crafting economy tied to character growth, plus UE5 tech work on water, sails, and weather that feeds into sailing and port traffic. Kakao Games lists ArcheAge Chronicles for a Q3 2026 release on PC and consoles in its official Q3 2025 earnings presentation. Aion 2 launched in Korea and Taiwan in late 2025, and NCSoft lists the global release for the second half of 2026. The sequel is built on Unreal Engine 5 for both PC and mobile, with DLSS 4 support, and a very large open world that mixes PvE and PvP on a big scale. The world is on a different level compared to the first game. Company figures say the map is roughly 36 times larger, around 1,200 square kilometers, with multiple biomes and underground complexes. flight is still central, both for exploration and aerial combat between factions. There are 8 classes, more than 200 dungeons and a full spread of modes, from large-scale Elios against Asmodeans to 1-on-1 and 8-on-8 arenas. Early Korean impressions praise the visuals and art direction, but complain about very bright, dense combat effects that often fill the screen and make it hard to see what is happening. After criticism of Throne and Liberty's monetization, NCSoft repeatedly promises a milder model for Aion 2, with less pressure to pay for competitive power. RuneScape Dragonwilds entered early access on PC in early 2025 and quickly gathered around 20,000 Steam reviews with roughly 81% positive. It is a standalone spin-off set in the RuneScape universe, focused on the Dragonwilds region with a campaign built around survival, exploration, and camp progression. The open world is not one huge continent, but a cluster of large zones centered on the player's base. As the camp is upgraded, new paths open up. Surrounding areas are cleared of monsters and more resources and story beats appear deeper in the wilds. Combat and crafting clearly carry over the old RuneScape DNA, lots of skills, gear-driven power curves, and a slower, more deliberate tempo. Players like the feeling of RuneScape in a compact format, familiar humor, lore, and visual style without marathon-length sessions. The main complaints are repetitive tasks and limited variety in endgame activities. According to the developer roadmap, version 1 is planned for early 2026. Console ports are only described as an option being explored, with no official announcement, so right now the game is only on PC. Outward 2 from 9 Dots and THQ Nordic is a direct evolution of the first game, this time with a larger, more cohesive open world. The new continent is split into climate zones, cities, and dungeons, and once again the focus is on long, risky journeys without conventional fast travel, where preparation matters more than raw power. The first Outward was very divisive, and now has around 23,000 Steam reviews with roughly 73% positive. Players liked the survival focus in co-op, but were frustrated by technical issues, stiff combat, and strange balance. For the sequel, the studio promises a reworked combat system with sharper animations and clearer feedback, while keeping the world's hostility and the need to plan every expedition. Co-op stays as one of the main hooks. Online co-op and local split screen are both confirmed, just like in the original. The open world is built to support joint play, with shared camps, routes, and situations where one character hauls another out of trouble. The setting is still a grounded fantasy world full of factions, magic schools, and strange creatures, but the protagonist is again just an ordinary person trying to survive and build something in a harsh, indifferent landscape. Enshrouded has been in early access since January 2024, and by late 2025 sits at roughly 86% positive on Steam across almost 80,000 reviews, a level many AAA games would envy. The open world of Embervale is a large map split into biomes divided by a toxic shroud. On the surface, players build bases, explore ruins, gather resources, and level up characters, while the deeper layers of the shroud hide tougher enemies and better rewards. Up to 16 players can share a world, making use of a flexible building system that supports anything from small homes to complex multi-level fortresses with a lot of decorative detail. Players like the combination of punchy melee combat, satisfying building, and solid optimization. Even on older hardware, Enshrouded often runs smoothly. The most common criticisms are a simple story and repetitive loops in some late-game activities. According to the official FAQ, version 1 is planned as a major update with a new biome, new bosses, and reworked parts of the progression curve. And that is the update the team wants to line up with the full 2026 release on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. Hit like if you don't mind and drop a comment with the 2026 game you're looking forward to the most. And if you don't feel like waiting for all these games to drop and want something to play right now, I've got a killer, truly player-approved list of the best games from the whole of 2025. And there are some real masterpieces in there. You know where to tap.